Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Douglas Smith, Senior Vice President of Public Affairs at Orchard Global Asset Management.
Wow, look at that. Do that for my wife and kids when I get home. So great to be here, sorry. They're watching. See, my daughter's watching from school, so I had to say that. Matt Nicholas, it is so great to be with Concordia here in the great state of Kentucky. Nate, thanks to you and Rubicon and the University of Kentucky for so heartedly supporting this incredible summit. It seems like just yesterday I was speaking at the first Concordia convening in New York City all those years ago. I'm not sure if you know this, but I'm actually a second-generation Kentucky colonel, an honor I received from then Governor Patton. I'm just wondering if it's too late to change my title on the website. My mother also received the honor of being named a Kentucky colonel for her work here in Kentucky on behalf of President Kennedy and his newly established Appalachian Regional Commission, clearly doing far more important work than I was. I'm also not sure if you remember, but at that first Concordia meeting in New York City, I was the warm-up act to my old boss, President Clinton. It was also President Clinton that brought me to Kentucky in the fall of 1993, 1 hour west of here, to Bardstown. It turned out I was here on Halloween, which is a great story for a bar later. But something even more impactful happened to me on that visit that I took back to Washington and has stuck with me ever since. It's what my staff at DHS used to fondly call the Bardstown Principles. That beautiful fall evening, I pulled a bar stool up for a quick bourbon and ended up sitting next to a man whose family traced their roots back to the first settlers of Kentucky. We got to talking about life, politics, and sports. We both quickly agreed that the Blue Jays, Phillies, and the World Series made absolutely no sense. He started telling me about his upbringing in Kentucky, raising kids, not trusting the Russians, some things never change, and how Washington knew nothing about how to fix the problems in the heartland of the country. I guess other things also never change. Much was discussed that night, but certain things stuck in my brain that I've never forgotten. My long-ago Kentucky friend made me realize sometimes you just have to break things down to the simplest roots. He wasn't looking for a lot. He wanted to be able to wake up in the morning, find fresh milk in the fridge to give his kids a good, healthy breakfast. He wanted the school district to have enough money to properly maintain the school bus driving his kids to school. He wanted his kids to feel safe at school, yet something else that has not changed. He wanted to know if it was a beautiful afternoon that his kids would feel safe walking home because the town could afford to hire enough police. That last point really stuck in my brain. It was why I was so proud when President Clinton announced grants to hire 100,000 new police officers a year later. It was a great example of what happens when the federal government listens and lets local experts from Main Street drive the needs that make the most sense for their communities. As my career in government progressed over the years, and I went from writing the president's briefing book to having one written for me, I always tried to remember what the right balance of Washington influence and local expertise was needed. As time went on, the challenges only seemed to get bigger, and the speed at which life events happen only seemed to come faster. And yet, it always seemed to come back to that cool night in Bardstown. How can we break it down to the root cause and find a logical solution that works at the local level? For almost 6 years, 42 in dog years, I served as the Assistant Secretary for the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, a job that was particularly meaningful to me because of my deep personal ties to the tragic events of 9/11. On that beautiful September morning, I was heading to the Pentagon to meet with my boss, Lieutenant General Timothy Maude. I was taking my time because his aide had emailed me to say the boss was going to be tied up in a meeting before and we could start an hour later. As I walked to get on the metro, American Airlines Flight 77 crashed into the Pentagon, killing all 64 on board and 125 in the Pentagon, including my boss, General Maude, the highest-ranking officer to be killed in the War on Terror. Every day for those 6 years, as I drove through the gates of DHS, I remembered General Maude, but I also remembered Bardstown. What could we do from DHS headquarters in DC to make America and the world safer? There was no way government could wave a magic wand and promise to keep America safer, not without local community buy-in and expertise. The task of keeping America safe at times has been referred to as a whole-of-government approach. But what it really takes is a whole of community approach. Much like the tremendous leadership of businesses right here in this community, it takes collaboration from K Street to Main Street to be more than talk, but to actually fix problems. Over those 6 years, I saw this over and over again. Who here has global entry or TSA pre-check? If only I had a nickel for everyone who had it. That would have been a great government idea that probably would have died somewhere deep in a basement in DC, if not for visionary leaders like Richard Anderson, then the CEO of Delta, for stepping up and helping us find a private sector solution to bring a highly complex screening system to life and teaching the government how to commercialize it and get the American public's buy-in. Who here has been traveling away from home when you've gotten a localized alert message on your phone warning of a pending weather emergency or an Amber Alert? Once again, an incredibly important tool in improving the safety of the American people that would have never come to pass without the collaboration between the federal government, the mobile phone carriers, American tech sectors, and local law enforcement and first responder experts. From Sandy Hook to Deepwater Horizon, from Hurricane Sandy to the tragic earthquake in Haiti, when we showed up to a local community, our jackets said DHS. They didn't say Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal. Those three letters on our backs represented hope to those local communities we were there trying to help. And still, it all brought me back to Bardstown. How could we best localize our solution and bring hope and comfort to the communities that we were serving on the darkest days of their lives? In my new life, in the world of finance at Orchard Group, it's amazing how much my Bardstown rules also exist. We look for trends, follow cues from policymakers in DC, but most importantly, we look at the ground level to really see the granular truth. It's easy to get sold on headlines and talking points, but it's not until you walk down the main streets of America you get to see what is really working. I'd like to close today by rolling the tape back once again to a telling book about the challenges facing the heartland of America. No, not Hillbilly Elegy, but Night Comes to the Cumberland by a son of Kentucky, Harry Caudell, first published in 1962, a gripping story on the poverty gripping Appalachia. In the foreword of the book, Secretary Stuart Udell talks of Caudell's desire for the rehabilitation of his homeland, but it will take deep concern by people in Washington. On the final pages of the book, Caudell closes by asking, where will this course lead us at last? Here we are 60 years later, and can we answer his question? Clearly, we have made progress, but can we do more? Thanks to innovative business leaders committing to growing businesses here in Kentucky, and to your amazing governor who you heard from earlier, and the rest of the heartland, tremendous progress has been made since my mother was driving the roads here in the early 60s with her boss, Franklin Roosevelt Jr. But in the spirit of Bardstown rules, are we doing enough to help drive innovation and opportunity deep into the center of the country? As my barmate all those years ago said, we are not looking for a handout, but a hand up. Special interests are okay as long as they're the interests of the local communities they are serving. Those interests could truly only be defined by listening to the needs and concerns from Main Street, not K Street. 20 years from now, Matt, you better still be at it, when my daughter is speaking at Concordia, hopefully she is talking about how the great center of the country is driving change and innovation, and DC is implementing their vision. Main Street will finally have taken over K Street. Thank you so much.